When I was 22 years old, I moved to a new city that was only 20 minutes away. I was quite familiar with the area, but didn't know anyone there. I moved because it was closer to my new job and the place where I would soon start school. I took up this new part-time job as a bartender at the nearest local bar, which was actually only half a mile from my apartment. It was actually a great job, and I enjoyed it there for the most part. It ranged between $180 and even up to $300 a night, sometimes only working 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. One of my co-workers, who was also a bartender, only worked on Fridays with me, and I kind of liked him because he was really handsome and charming, just my type. And his name was Noah, but he had a girlfriend, so I never approached him out of respect for him and his relationship, but I always kept thinking about him. One Friday at work, I could tell he was upset and something was wrong because he wasn't himself. I asked him if he was okay, and he told me he was fine and wasn't sure why I was asking. He told me he was just tired for a moment when I went out on break. I noticed he was outside too, and he was crying. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it, and he finally opened up to me. He told me he was going through a tough time, and he had just recently found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him. I offered to hang out after work in case he needed a friend to talk to, and he gladly accepted. He came over, and we drank and had fun, but the more he drank, the less I wanted to be around him. Honestly, he started acting hostile and passive-aggressive, but I let it slide because I knew he was really upset about his girlfriend. Eventually, he left shortly after we spent some intimate time in bed. He started coming almost every night after that. At that point, we were almost like we were in a relationship, or at least I felt that way. But our little fling only lasted about 2 weeks because the last time he came over, I saw a different side of him. At first, everything was normal, and we were having fun as usual. He came to my apartment, and we went for a late-night walk on the trail and then swung by the nearby park. I don't even remember what triggered our argument, but we both got really heated, and he ended up hitting and choking me until I passed out, leaving me on the trail where we were walking. Some kids eventually found me as they were riding their bikes along the trail, and he helped me by calling the police and taking me to a safe place. I later found out that Noah's girlfriend never cheated on him, and that he had been physically abusive to her throughout their relationship, and lied that she broke up with him, and he couldn't accept the reality after she left him. I truly hope he gets the help he needs, not just for himself, but for the women he'll encounter in the future too. I was in a very unhealthy and toxic relationship with my ex-girlfriend about 1.5 years, almost 3 years ago now. So here's my story. I met her on Tinder, and I'll just call her Emma for this story. I was 18 years old at the time, and she was 26. We chatted on Tinder for 2 or 3 hours, and then we decided that we wanted to meet up. She lived about 40 minutes away from me, and neither of us had a car. So I asked my mom if she would drive me to her place, and I told her I was going to a friend's because there was no way she would drive me there if she knew I was meeting a 26-year-old girl from Tinder half an hour after she dropped me off. She gave me ecstasy pills. For those of you who don't know, it's like a club drug, something you take at parties to make you feel good and energized. I had heard of ecstasy before, but had never done it before at that time. So this was my first time. We had fun and enjoyed ourselves so fast forward to about 2 weeks. I was still at Emma's place during that time. We were just there, getting drunk and going to parties. I asked her to be my girlfriend, and she said yes. We were practically already together, but to make it official, you know. I asked her, my mom didn't take it well, but she eventually accepted us being together. I think she was mostly just upset because she felt like I was lying. After all, she didn't know about what went on behind closed doors. She didn't know about the drugs and alcohol we used, or anything else throughout our 1.5 year. Almost every part of it was toxic. It was toxic from the start. I would say at least 50 times we messed something up. Whether it was alcohol, weed, ecstasy, you name it. There were a lot of other things that happened between us too. But I'll get straight to the core part of the story, jumping forward to the day we broke up. We got into a fight. She started accusing me of cheating, and she said that she checked my phone and read messages between me and my friend that I've had since I was like 12 years old. She accused me of flirting with her back and forth, and she kept saying that I liked this girl. She was really obsessed with me. She threw things everywhere in the house and broke things. I tried my best to calm her down and took her to our room because we were actually accompanied by my friend who was there with her boyfriend, and my dad and some of Emma's friends were there too. We just had a little party and we were all drinking and having fun. I started to feel embarrassed by Emma's behavior as my friend watched it all. Everyone was outside, even though in the backyard near the bonfire, and I didn't want them to see what was going on. So I tried to calm her down like I said when we went into the room, even though that's when she really lost it. She started hitting me and throwing things at me and threatening me with a kitchen knife she grabbed. She even started chasing me around the room with that knife. I ran out and grabbed my dad to tell him what was happening, but then my dad and her got into a fight, and she even threatened him with the knife. Eventually, my dad and I left with my friend and her boyfriend, and I never saw her again after that. She tried to contact me since we broke up, even though she has a child now and she's married. She still tries to talk to me, which I ignore every time. I was a very depressed and exploited kid. I've never touched drugs a day in my life before I met Elmo, but as soon as I met him, he threw drugs in front of me and took advantage of me by preying on my emotional trauma and my immaturity towards the world. I just turned 18, 2 weeks before I met him. He was 27, 3 months after we met. He was practically 9 years older than me, which was definitely a red flag for him there, something that always stuck to him. But when I first met him, the first thing he said to me was that I would never meet my family again. Maybe he was just a harmless joke. If you think about it again, now given the circumstances in which I started to think about everything. Together, it seems like he planned this. He drugged me and just took advantage of me. I've been really sober since the day we broke up, with occasionally drinking with the guys at the bar. But that's it. I have a new boyfriend now, and we're in a very healthy relationship. I used to date a girl named Layla. We were very close at one point, and we were together for a full 2 years. Which was a long time for me, considering we were high school students, and most of my friends and other close people wouldn't last more than 2 months at most. We eventually broke up for about a month because we both attended different colleges, and at the time, we weren't sure it would work out. We both lived on campus, and her campus was a 2-hour drive from mine. She went to school and worked almost full time. There was just too much going on, and we didn't think it would go smoothly and simply. I'm one of those people who need alone time to be happy in my relationship, and I felt that was pretty normal even though we broke up. I worked and went to school. I felt like I didn't have enough time for myself, and we eventually got back together about a month after we broke up. So basically, we would try. And besides, I was in a relationship. I really loved her, and I thought she was the one I wanted to spend the rest of my life with so fast. 1 month later, I left campus to visit my family for a week, because I miss them, and I'm not used to spending much time away from them. My family and I are very close. I have 2 brothers, 1 sister, and of course, my parents. I'm the oldest among them, so I'm like a role model for all my siblings. My family lives in an average American suburban home in a quiet and pleasant neighborhood. I told my girlfriend Layla that I would be going home for 2 weeks to spend time with my family, and she was very happy for me and supportive, so nothing extraordinary. It was just on the third or fourth night of mine at my parents' house. I saw my girlfriend starting to behave strangely. I knew something was wrong from the way she messaged me. She made sure nothing was wrong, but deep down I knew she was lying. Eventually, she asked me if I wanted to go out that day, and I told her I would love to. But I already made plans to take one of my little brothers to the shipwreck so we could swim and play basketball. That's when everything changed dramatically. She started blowing up my phone with messages, and it got to the point where I couldn't even finish reading a message before she sent another one because she didn't even allow me to reply to it. So I just decided to turn off my phone and go about my day. I thought she was just having fun, and she would soon calm down. But I was wrong because seeing my phone about an hour later, and I was shocked. There were no more than 100 messages and 20+ missed calls, and I got 5 voicemails. I was truly stunned by this, because this was totally out of character for her, and not something she usually does. She had a total mental breakdown for no reason. She told me that she would commit suicide, and she accused me of cheating. I mean, the accusations were endless. With all the messages like some individual texts consisting of 3 or 4 paragraphs each, it's crazy. I didn't even read them all because there were so many messages. I replied to her via text, and I kept it brief. I just told her that she was overreacting, and I denied all the accusations because they were not true at all. When my brother and I got back from the accident, I went to the bathroom in my bedroom so I could shower. When I came out, Layla was sitting on my bed with her arms crossed. I thought I was dreaming for a second, so I rubbed my eyes to make sure she was really there. My parents let her into the house because they didn't know anything about what was going on, because I didn't think to tell them. Plus again, I didn't think Layla would actually come to my house. I broke up with her right then and there, and I told her she had to leave. Then she threatened to tell my parents that I was physically abusive to her if I didn't sit and talk to her, which is not true at all. It's really bad. Really bad to lie about her. She's very manipulative. But I'm not fooled, and I know my parents won't believe her, especially after I showed them the messages she sent me. So she came to my house against my will, and tried to gaslight and manipulate me into talking to her. She even got to the point where I felt sick, and I had to ask my dad to get her out of my room and get her out of the house. My dad really had to yell at her to make her leave because she argued with him for more than 5 minutes about leaving. It was the most embarrassing thing I've ever experienced once she left. I blocked her in every way I could think of, and I haven't spoken to her since, and I haven't seen her again, since I know she's with my friend. A week after we broke up, I felt it was an attempt to hurt me or to get my attention. I closed my eyes to the whole situation, although it really made me upset. I wouldn't give in and give her that satisfaction. I completely removed them both from my life, even my friend, because clearly she wasn't my friend if she could do that to me. Since then, I've become a much better friend, and I'm much happier without Layla, even though I'm not so sure she can say the same. I received random messages requests from her on Instagram because she kept making new accounts to try to reach out to me. One time she contacted me. She actually apologized to me. At another time, she really went off telling me about how much she hated me. It's crazy because at one point, she was the girl I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I just never saw her for who she really was. I'm glad she showed me before we had a child or ended up married or something. I'd really dodge a bullet there.